It's 2017 in the morning. The house is quiet, no notifications, no noise, just you sitting at the table staring at numbers you already know by heart. The bank balance, the credit card statement, the due dates that keep coming faster every month. You did what you were supposed to do. You paid, you didn't miss a bill. You were responsible. So why does your chest feel tight right now? Why does it feel like no matter how hard you try, you're sinking instead of moving forward? There's a moment, maybe you felt it, where you realize something is off. Not loud, not dramatic, just a quiet, heavy thought. Why am I still struggling if I'm doing everything right? Torture, before we dive into the topic, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never say out loud. This topic is ignored because it forces people to admit something painful. What you were taught about debt might be wrong, not slightly wrong. Dangerously wrong. From the time you were young, you were trained to obey money rules without questioning them. Pay on time, make the minimum payment, don't fall behind. And you followed those rules like your life depended on it. But nobody explained the trap. Nobody explained that some debts are designed to stay with you. That interest isn't an accident, it's the business model. That doing what feels safe can quietly steal years of your life. So people avoid this topic because looking at it honestly feels like standing in front of a mirror and realizing I've been running, but not toward freedom. It's easier to stay busy than to stay aware, easier to swipe, pay, repeat, easier to say, that's just how life is. But deep down, you know that's a lie. You feel it when you hesitate before checking your balance. You feel it when a small emergency feels like a disaster. You feel it when you're tired of being tired. This topic is ignored because it creates tension inside people, tension between effort and results, between responsibility and reality, and tension forces change. So instead, people normalize stress. They joke about being broke. They tell themselves, at least I'm not worse off. But that quiet voice inside you doesn't shut up. It keeps asking the same question. If this is working, why does it feel like I'm losing? Tonight, or this morning, or wherever you are right now, this is the moment where that question matters. Because the second you stop ignoring it, everything starts to shift. It's late again. Not the kind of late where you're having fun, the kind of late where your mind won't shut up. You're lying there, staring at the ceiling, replaying the same numbers over and over. Minimum due, interest rate, balance barely moving. And then it hits you, slow, uncomfortable, almost insulting. I paid last month, so why does it feel like nothing changed? Here's the biggest mistake people make with debt. And it's so common, so normalized that almost nobody questions it. They confuse paying with fast progress. Sending money every month feels responsible. It feels adult. It feels like you're doing the right thing, but deep down something feels wrong because you're paying and paying. Yet the debt is still there, quiet, patient, waiting. The mistake is this. Most people aren't trying to eliminate debt. They're trying to survive it. They look at the statement and think, okay, what's the minimum so I don't get in trouble? Not, how do I make this disappear from my life forever? That one shift changes everything, and most people never make it. Minimum payments are comforting. They don't hurt too much. They don't force change. But that comfort comes at a brutal price. Years of interest, years of stress, years of feeling stuck while life keeps moving. Here's what nobody tells you when you first get into debt. Some debts are designed so that if you only do what's required, they can follow you for decades. Decades. Think about that. You're not behind because you're lazy. You're not stuck because you're irresponsible. You're stuck because you're playing a game you were never taught how to win. And here's another hard truth. Most people treat all debt the same. They don't ask questions. They don't prioritize. They don't challenge the system. They just pay whatever shows up on the paper and hope one day it magically ends. But hope is expensive. Hope keeps you quiet. Hope keeps you obedient. Hope keeps you broke. The real mistake isn't having debt. The mistake is believing that staying calm and compliant will set you free. It won't, because every month you only manage debt instead of attacking it. You're trading your future for short-term relief. And somewhere inside you, you already know this. That's why checking your balance makes your stomach drop. That's why progress feels invisible. That's why you're exhausted even when you're doing everything right. This isn't about shame. This is about clarity. Once you see the mistake clearly, really see it, you can't unsee it. And that's when things start to change. It's usually quiet when this realization shows up. Not dramatic, not loud, just a pause. A pause where you stop blaming the bill, stop blaming your job, stop blaming the economy. And for the first time, you look at us how you're thinking. Because here's the truth most people avoid their entire lives. Debt doesn't control you. Your mindset around it does less. You were taught to treat debt like a moral issue, like something you should feel guilty about, something you should quietly carry and apologize for. So you behave politely with it. You make the payment. You don't ask questions. You don't push back. You tell yourself, at least I'm being responsible. But responsibility without strategy is a trap. The mindset shift required here is uncomfortable because it takes away excuses. You have to stop seeing debt as something you live with and start seeing it as something you confront. A debt is not a punishment. It's not a personal failure. It's a financial tool. And sometimes a financial weapon. And the moment you understand that, the emotional weight changes. You stop feeling ashamed. You stop feeling small. You stop feeling like you're behind in life. Instead, you start asking sharper questions. Why am I paying this? What is this costing me long term? Who benefits if I stay calm and quiet? That's a dangerous mindset. Dangerous to the system that profits from your confusion. Because once you stop treating debt emotionally, you stop being predictable. You stop reacting to due dates. You stop letting statements control your mood. You stop panicking every time an email from a bank hits your inbox. This shift isn't about being reckless. It's about being intentional. You move from fear-based decisions to outcome-based decisions. From "I hope this gets better" to "I'm ending this." And that's a powerful place to stand. This mindset also forces you to accept something hard. Nobody is coming to rescue you. No perfect timing, no magical raise, no sudden break. And strangely, that's freeing. Because if nobody is coming, that means A, you're in control. You don't need permission to change strategy. You don't need approval to think differently. You don't need to feel guilty for wanting out. The moment this clicks, debt loses its emotional grip, becomes numbers, timelines, decisions, not fear, not shame, not identity. And once your mindset changes, your behavior follows quietly. No motivation speeches, no hype, just clarity. And clarity is what separates people who stay stuck from people who finally break free. It's usually early in the day when this part hurts the most. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's honest. You open your phone, you look at your income, and for a second, you feel that familiar defense rise up inside you. This is all I make. This is just how things are. And then comes the harder part. You look at where the money actually goes, not where you think it goes. Not where you far hope it goes, where it really goes. Small charges, subscriptions you forgot about, convenience spending that felt harmless in the moment. Nothing looks crazy on its own. That's what makes it dangerous, because the biggest financial leaks are quiet. Here's the practical truth most people avoid. You don't escape debt by earning more first. You escape by taking control of what already passes through your hands. This isn't about punishment. It's about focus. You stop asking, "What can I afford?" and start asking, "What actually matters right now?" For a season, not forever. Comfort takes a back seat to control. You don't need to destroy your life. You need to simplify it. Less noise, less chaos, less pretending you give your money an assignment. Not everything gets funded, not everything survives. Some expenses don't make the cut, not because they're evil, but because they're slowing your escape. And here's the part people underestimate. You stop spreading your effort thin. A little here, a little there. That feels productive, but it's weak. Instead, you apply pressure. Focused, intentional, uncomfortable. You don't manage anymore. You as an attack, because debt doesn't respond to politeness. It responds to force. And yes, at first it feels tight. You'll question yourself. You'll hear that voice say, "Is this really worth it?" But then something strange happens. For the first time in a long time, the numbers start to move. Not dramatically, not overnight, but noticeably balances drop faster. Interest loses ground. You can see the finish line instead of guessing where it is. And that changes your energy. You stop feeling helpless. You stop feeling behind. You stop feeling like money controls your mood. This is the moment where effort finally connects to results. Not because you worked harder, but because you worked smarter. This phase doesn't last forever. But the discipline you build here, the clarity, the confidence, that stays. And once you experience what control feels like, you'll never want to go back to guessing again. There's a moment people don't talk about. It's not when the balance hits zero. It's not when the debt disappears. It's earlier than that. It's the first time you realize, "I'm not scared anymore." The numbers are still there. The payments are still there. But something inside you is different. Before, debt lived in your head rent-free. It followed you to work. It sat next to you at dinner. It showed up right before sleep. You'd feel it in your chest when your phone buzzed. You'd feel it in your stomach when a bill arrived. You'd feel it in your tone when money came up in conversation. Debt doesn't just take money. It takes as a mental space. It makes you second-guess yourself. It makes you say no before you even try. It makes you feel smaller than you actually are. And the worst part, you start to believe this pressure is just part of adulthood. That being anxious is normal. That being tired all the time is normal. That constantly worrying about what if something goes wrong is normal. It's not. The psychological shift starts when you stop avoiding the truth, when you stop flinching at your bank app, when you stop delaying the mail, when you stop pretending it'll all work itself out. Taking control of debt changes how your brain works. You stop living in reaction mode. You stop feeling hunted by due dates. You stop letting money decide your mood for the day. And that silence, that mental quiet, it's powerful. You sleep differently. Not perfectly, but deeper. You think clearer. Your patience improves. Your confidence starts coming back in places you didn't expect. At work, in conversations, in decisions. Because when debt loses its emotional grip, you stop shrinking. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop feeling guilty for thinking ahead. You stop measuring your worth by your balance. And here's the part that surprises people the most. When the emotional pressure eases, discipline becomes easier, not harder. You're not forcing yourself anymore. You're not dragging yourself through it. You're calm, focused, intentional. Money stops feeling like a constant threat and starts feeling like a tool again. That changes how you show up in life. You're less reactive, less defensive, less overwhelmed, and more grounded, more present, more in control. This is why people who take control of debt don't just change financially. They change emotionally. They carry themselves differently. They speak differently. They plan differently. Because when your mind isn't constantly under attack, you finally have room to breathe. And breathing, real breathing, is the beginning of freedom. There's a future version of you standing on the other side of this. You don't see them yet because right now all you can see is the pressure, the bills, the deadlines. But if you stay consistent, if you don't quit when it gets boring or uncomfortable, that future starts pulling closer. Here's what actually happens long term when you follow through. Your life slows down in a good way. Not because you stop working, but because you stop panicking. Money stops being an emergency every single month. A small problem stays small. A surprise doesn't feel like a disaster. You don't check your account with fear anymore. You check it with awareness. That alone changes how you move through the world. You start planning instead of reacting. You think in months then years, not just Fridays and paydays. And something else happens quietly. You begin to trust yourself again. Because for a long time you didn't. You promised yourself you'd fix things next month. You told yourself it would get better soon. And deep down you knew you were lying to yourself, following through repairs that trust. You prove to yourself that when you decide something, you finish it. That confidence doesn't stay in your bank account. It spreads. You negotiate better. You say no faster. You don't cling to situations out of fear. You're not desperate anymore. And desperation is expensive. People who stay stuck financially often look the same, emotionally rushed, defensive, always one problem away from breaking. But when you remove the weight of debt the right way, your posture changes. You don't rush conversations. You don't avoid decisions. You don't feel like life is chasing you. You feel grounded. And here's the part nobody warns you about. Once you see this result, once you experience calm instead of chaos, you'll realize how much of your life was shaped by pressure you thought was normal. You'll wonder how many choices you made out of fear, how many opportunities you avoided, how much energy you wasted just surviving, and you'll promise yourself one thing: never again. Never again will you let confusion control you. Never again will you mistake silence for peace. Never again will you trade your future for short-term comfort. This process doesn't just change your finances. It changes your standards. You stop tolerating stress that leads nowhere. You stop accepting systems that work against you. You stop living on autopilot. And one day, not suddenly, not dramatically, you'll wake up and realize something powerful. You're not free because everything is perfect. You're free because as you're in control. And control, real control, is what people spend their entire lives chasing. You didn't chase it, you built it step by step,